Started. Welcome, DY committee members and alternates that are able to make it. I'm going to call to order the May Disadvantaged Business and Workforce Advisory Committee for the Green Line Extension Project. I also would like to have a couple announcements. The Minneapolis Building and Construction Trades Council has appointed a new representative, Dan McConnell. Dan is the business manager for the MBCTC and has been in the construction industry for almost 20 years. I also want to say that the transportation conference is going on right now. So there are a lot of folks that are unable to attend this month's meeting. For sure, our MnDOT folks are definitely at the transportation conference, and some of our city and local partners. The council doesn't heavily promote the transportation conference like MnDOT does, so I almost forgot about it until I was talking with a MnDOT colleague today, and she was just pulling into the transportation conference this morning. So a big event on that side of the fence. Also, I want to say that our committee elected to hold meetings virtually and meet quarterly for in-person meetings back in March. So next month will be our first in-person meeting in almost two years, or more than 2 years. And the London McCrossin Joint Venture has offered to host this next month's meeting at their field office in Hopkins. Again, we do realize that that might not be as accessible for folks that do not drive. So please, if you do not drive or take transit, please reach out to myself or John, and I can coordinate some sort of ride share to that meeting for next month. So just let me know, and I can coordinate something. Just a few housekeeping notes for this virtual meeting. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. If you're having technical issues, let us know in the chat and we'll try and help you. Please close any other teleconference applications, because we know that this improves the meeting audio and visual quality. And this meeting is being recorded by the Metropolitan Council. Meeting handouts and presentations are posted on the project website at SWLRT.org. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Scott Beutel, for the roll call. Scott.
Thank you. So for the roll call, I'll just read through, and if you're here, if you could say present, that would be great. So Ashanti, I know you're here, so we'll start by marking you as present, and I will mark myself as present. Is Barry here today? Or was that the person you were just saying was replaced?
So it's Dan McConnell would be the rep.
Dan, are you here today? Looks like Dan is not here. Is Jenny Winkler here as an alternate? Looks like no. Gilbert, are you here today? Looks like no. Is Eric Padu here as an alternate? Looks like a no. Barb Lau, are you here today? Looks like no. Is Kendra here as an alternate? Looks like a no. Marvin Smith, are you here today? Also no. Sheila Olson, are you here?
I'm here.
Great, thanks, Sheila. Julie Brecky, are you here today?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yep, Julie Brecky's here.
Thank you. Toney O'Brien, are you here today? Or is Chris Hinton here as an alternate from Summit OIC? Looks like no. And I'm assuming we still have not filled that slot for Mita. Alex Merritt, are you here for Twin Cities Rise? Looks like a no. Leslie from City of Minneapolis or Daniel from City of Minneapolis? Sounded like Minneapolis folks weren't going to be here today. Okay. Mara Brown from Higher Minnesota, are you here today?
I'm here, and I saw that Tony O'Brien joined.
Oh, great. Thank you for that addition. All right. John O'Phelan, you here today? Or Dave Gorski? Looks like neither of them. And Mary Schmidt or Sheila Kaupy from MnDOT? I'm thinking both of them are no's. Okay. All right, so we got those folks. Second. And then for our presenters, Ashanti, do we need to go through the presenters for roll call or no? I don't know what we've done historically. Great.
Sorry about that. Brian Leitch and Monica Robinson are on.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks. Is there anyone else I missed?
Barb Blau is also on now.
Thanks, Barb. Anyone else? All right.
Human rights folks are here.
Right.
Brianne and I.
Awesome. We got you, Elaine. So, okay, great. I think we got the members. We've gone through all the members, so appreciate that. All right. So if folks had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting were included in the handout for your review. If folks have any edits, you can share them now, and we'll take those down. Otherwise, you can email any edits to Ashanti and I, and we'll make sure that those get included. Are there any edits people wanted to chat about for the minutes? All right, hearing none, then I will turn it over to Building Strong Communities for their update.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. If we can go to our next slide, or we've got two slides, just wanted to yield my talking time to one of our videos that we've created for Building Strong Communities. For the past few months, we've been kind of giving updates and teeing up to our graduation and placement. And so we created this video of our current cohort and kind of highlighted some of their experiences over the last 12 weeks. We are extremely proud that we were able to retain the majority of the people that started with us back in February. And just a couple weeks ago, we graduated 35 people from the Building Strong Communities program. So I'll stop talking, play the video. I'll have a few more comments, and then I'll look forward to just some additional commentary about the success of the program that'll come through Christa. Yep. Eli, you can press play.
Building Strong Communities is a multi-trade apprenticeship preparatory program that focuses on preparing women, people of color, and veterans for union careers in the construction industry.
Everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody's coming today with different fitness levels.
Say, hey, can y'all come in on Saturday? That's time to have. Yeah, I'll take that 10 hours, 8 hours, whatever you want to do.
Building Strong Communities provides participants with an industry overview, craft-specific curriculum, and hands-on exposure to the building and construction trades.
Yep. Okay, now pull back and towards the center. Yes. We're going to be going non-stop.
There'll be a guy Jeff size, and there'll be maybe a female, barely 100 pounds. And if you had to bet who was going to make it, everybody would bet the guy would, But I've been fooled hundreds of times. We got 100-pound females that are knocking it out of the park.
Building Strong Communities prepares participants for a financially rewarding career with a world of possibilities.
This stays to the inside, cutting surface to the outside.
So when you are working out and you are exhausted, cognition, which is ability to remember things, ability to problem solve, declines. As we move through this day, so that we can move through it, showing you your limits, but at the same time staying on the safe side.
At no time do we want to be underneath the load.
The goal of Building Strong Communities program is to help participants understand the industry so that they know what to expect when they start working in the field. That hard work pays off, and to take pride in building up this world around us all. It's time to stop living paycheck to paycheck because of a dead-end job. It's time to stop worrying about not having medical coverage for you and your family. It's time to start a new career in the unionized construction industry. It's time to build strong communities.
Right. So, yeah, thank you for that. Just really, really proud of our 35 graduates. And actually 2 weeks today, we had our ceremony on May 5th. And if you can go to the next slide, Eli. Here's another snapshot of our graduates. Again, in less than 2 weeks, 17 of our 35 graduates have already been placed in union apprenticeships. Just really, really proud. Historically, we do a really good job of placing individuals that make it through the program. The goal is to get 100% of them placed, and through our partnerships with the 15 affiliated trades, as well as LMJV, it's just really, really exciting to see success happen so fast for these folks. And just want to thank Christa and the rest of the team over there, because half of those have been placed either with Lunda or with the subs that are supporting the council projects. And so, yeah, great partnerships. And that's all I'll say. I'll leave the rest for Christa, but this is a really exciting time. We've worked really, really hard over the last 12 weeks, and now it's time to celebrate.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for that update, and super exciting that whole crew made it. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear about those placements. Did folks have any questions about this? Awesome. Well, hearing none, then we will be getting an update from the Green Line Extension Project Office next. I'll turn it over to them.
Thanks, Scott. This is David Davies from the Project Office, giving a pretty light and breezy update this month. And but just wanted to run through kind of from the lens of as we are getting out in with the public and talking to folks, and as the construction season ramps up, we are it's been fun these first the last couple months that we've been able to engage the community on a few different levels, and just highlighting here some of the recent events we've done, doing engaging a few different generations, even having events with preschoolers and college engineering students, as well as MnDOT retirees. You know, it's a lot of fun to get information in front of these different groups and get them excited about the project. Of course, they all have different types of questions, clearly, like young children, right? Like, love just seeing big machines and cool tools and things like that. And you know, talking to the college kids, they're just really eager. Seeing them out there near the Kenilworth Tunnel, they marvel at the scope of that work. And then, of course, for the retirees, some of it's old hat to them, but they still like engaging and understanding how things are changing or what's going on this type of project. So just wanted to highlight that for folks. And you know, it's really mostly pretty pictures this month, but I wanted to just give you a flavor of as we talk to the communities, certainly we as the project office outreach team, we're not the only folks out there talking to folks, as Thomas was just talking about and Christa talks about a lot. But I wanted to just give people a flavor of, as I run through some of these slides, I'm not going to speak to every single picture, but just understanding kind of what we're hearing and what people are marveling at over the last few months as construction progresses. So Eli, if you want to kind of just cycle through. So yeah, at the Southwest Station, you see a lot of progress there. It's a really popular place for us to give tours. We just had a tour there for the public this past weekend. And we've done that for a few years now, so people can really see noticeable progress in this area and see how it's progressed. You can keep going, yeah. On to the next one. I mean, overall, in Eden Prairie, what we're hearing from the public, people are really excited just to see rail, right? Like start to see stations in advanced stages of completion, and seeing the rail installed is just a real milestone, or getting it prepped. The areas prepped for installation. So that's what we're hearing from the community these days. It's that when they talk to us, they love seeing that kind of thing. So you can keep on going there. In Minnetonka, you're seeing a lot of progress on structures, and people, even though there's, say, in the Opus area or some of the other areas in Minnetonka, it does cause some frustrations for folks, as we've had some detours even early this season. But people notice the progress up here at the Feltel Road Bridge, and if you continue on the Minnetonka Hopkins Bridge, that is just a massive structure that people are being able to watch from season to season, and as it nears its advanced stages of completion. So a lot of eyes on that, and a lot of interest in seeing some of these pieces start to come together. In Hopkins, you can progress on certainly the stations. Downtown Hopkins Station is very visible, Shady Oak as well. But of course, as we just closed an eastbound segment of Excelsior Boulevard, people really start to notice the scope and the scale of the Excelsior Boulevard LRT bridge. We probably bring images back to you every month on this, but it speaks to how awe-inspiring it is when folks drive by, sometimes for the first time in a really long time, as they're doing errands or find themselves out in Hopkins for the first time in a while. So it's fun to really show people intentionally, and then just to hear what people are saying about it. Certainly, we hear a lot about the trails these days, and people certainly are eager to get their trail facilities back open, but we like to show people what they're going to get back when it's all said and done. And Blake Road Underpass is one great example of things moving toward those stages of completion. And so we've got a little bit to go, but it gets people excited. Anytime we have a trail or structure that's separated from kind of the driving traffic, people get interested in how that's all going to work, just like at Louisiana as well. Continue on there. Got a lot of work going on in this area of Louisiana Station and kind of down to the Southerly Connector. A lot of eyes on it from a business and residential perspective, but this is also a popular area where we've been able to show people through tours like what's going on here. And then again at the stations in St. Louis Park, what's great is what I like doing is being able to show, as you progress along the corridor, some of the stations that are almost completely done from a civil perspective, at least, to stations that are still a little bit in progress, like Wooddale. People can really kind of compare and contrast to see like where things are in those stages. So St. Louis Park, we kind of categorize as somewhere that's got some elements that are looking very finished, and some that still that are being worked on heavily. Of course, the tunnel gets a lot of Kenilworth LRT tunnel gets a lot of attention, and we like to show the progress that's being made at the tunnel, segments that are nearing completion, which is really exciting. And we're about to close Cedar Lake Parkway next Monday for about 10 months, so that we can continue tunnel construction to the east. There's the parkway right there, and excavation occurring, I believe earlier or maybe late last month. And that's going to be a major endeavor and a real milestone to be able to progress tunnel construction through this area. Additionally, seeing work at the Cedar Lake Channel Bridge, you know, folks can float under that as they traverse between the lakes, and they can really measure that progress from season to season as that work advances. Bryn Mawr, that community is really excited about light rail, and so it's really cool for them to be able to start to see the station come together with the, this is a foundation or a pier for the bridge, the truss bridge that's going to be installed, the pedestrian bridge between the roadway area and out to the station area. So that community is getting really excited to see that progress. Corridor protection barrier making great progress. People see this contiguous wall, and it was one of the areas that was noted as a challenge, right? Something that was added relatively late in the project, and it's really encouraging to see the progress that's being made there. In Glenwood, one of the most visible parts of the whole project, given that it's proximity to downtown Minneapolis, that you kind of see it from the public right-of-way and adjacent bridge structures. I just led a tour there last Tuesday, and it was people really get to see almost the complete package of activities that are happening in that area. I think finally, we've just got some of the work that's going on up at 5th Avenue and 7th Street at the LRT bridge, the one that the bridge that connects into the existing line. So people are starting to literally make those connections of like what's going on and how this is all coming together between Target Field and coming out of downtown Minneapolis. So that's about it for the civil construction update portion of that. We're hearing a lot of positive feedback, seeing that work ramp up. So I just wanted to note here at the end too, that when we talk to the community about systems contract work, you know, some of our slides talk about this order of operations of handing off civil to systems, but we always want to acknowledge that some of that work is being done off-site and that there is progress being made. And people don't quite, you know, make that connection naturally. So we always want to highlight that for the community, that even though you may not be seeing systems work necessarily in the field all the time, there is work being done. So that's some of the examples here with some of the offsite production. I believe that's it, and I'm happy to take any questions that we have. I don't think Nick is on today, so I can do my best to answer any questions that people have and or get back to the committee as necessary.
All right. Well, thanks, David. Yeah, I was in the office at Haywood this week, so I did see some of the activity going on right across the street, connecting to the existing track. So, yeah, exciting to see that work going on.
Yep.
All right. Next, we have the DBE Achievement Report. Jon.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So slide 36 here summarizes the activities on the 3 construction contracts as of March 31st. So sorry, I got the date wrong up top there, so that's my error. But the table has it right. It's as of March 31st. And as you can see, just like last month, all of the contracts are exceeding their goals right now. And, you know, as we will hear later on, the Ellis Black Franklin O&M contract is nearing its completion. I believe it's at like 99% or so complete. So there's just a few items that we need to close out on before we can get that final achievement. So our team in the office here has been working to put out a closeout memo and then close out on it. But then it's always good for us to see that it is closing here and in a good position like that. So I think that is the only slide I have for the DBE participation.
Any questions? Christa, you're on.
All right, let's go to the next slide, please. So this month, to do a DBE highlight, instead of just picking one specific DBE, I wanted to take the opportunity to really show you guys a quick picture of one of our major subcontractors work with their DBE participation, and it is fantastic. Egan, one of our major partners on the project, is exceeding not just their DBE goal for the project, but their true good faith efforts and the support that they're providing with the DBEs, not only that they already have on the project, but with potential addition. So look at here, you guys, we have 12 DBE companies working under Egan with contracts. 5 of them are DBE subcontractors, All Phase, Gunner Electric, Vercellus, CI Utilities, and Pavloni. Gunner Electric, just to give an example, their contract has almost doubled with Egan since the conception of the project. We have 5 DBE suppliers for the project, and their numbers are continually moving, as well as 2 DBE specialty services. So it's a great job with our subcontractors and the continued efforts throughout the project. Any questions about this slide? If not, there's our update on our change orders with our DBE participation to date. You know, it has increased. You know, our goal is 16%. The biggest deal will be at the end of the project to see where we're at with what we had committed to what we ended up with. So that is great. And I do believe that is it for us. Yep. Thanks, guys. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. This is Chris Gannon with APJV. So our report will start, good news. We talked about this in the past, but we finally have our fully executed subcontract finalized with our newest DBE subcontractor, Elite Fiber Optics, for just over $3 million. So Elite's going to be installing the fiber optic, providing the fiber, and installing the fiber cable on the project. So we're looking forward to working with them, and we're glad to have them on board. Next, work coming up for us. Again, a lot of our work, like we've talked about in the past, is going to get moved to 2023. This year in the field is going to be similar to last year, but we are continuing with the material storage build out at our Golden Valley warehouse. The photos that David showed earlier of the substations, those are up there in Golden Valley in that warehouse. And then at Wooddale, Gunner is going to be starting work for some comm work, installing junction boxes for the comm system. Change orders were just over $12 million, and there's been good participation from our DBE subcontractors. Gunner Electric, just over $2 million. Generation Cable, $400,000, and then Carlo with the OCS poles of about $280,000. Our change order participation is just over 20%, and like John had mentioned earlier, our participation to date is just over 17%. And I think that's it for APJV, unless anyone has any questions. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris. So Elaine will give us an update on the project's workforce achievement next. So Elaine.
Thank you, Scott. So for March, on the civil contract with LMJV, they worked 34,401 hours. Since the start of the project, they have logged 1,961,475 hours. In the month of March, they came in at 6.84% for women, and overall they're at 8.17. For POCI, they came in at 21.98%, and they're at 23.33% overall. For the month of March, they had 0.01% unspecified hours, and overall they're at 0.62%. And here's the breakdown how the hours were. For unspecified, they had 5 hours, and that was the 0.01%. For white women, 1,276 hours, or 3.71%. For women of color, they worked 1,076 hours, or 3.13%. Men of color worked 6,486 hours, 18.85%. And white men worked 25,558 hours, 74.29%. And the trucking that we are counting since the start of the project, MBE is still at 26,639 hours. There was no change from the previous month. ZTS is 4,388 hours, and Rock On Truckings is still also at 1,375 hours. There was no change from the previous month. And the next slide, please. On the systems contract with APJV, in March, they worked 140 hours, and they've worked 3,055 hours since their work started. They had no women or POCI on the project during the month of March, but overall, they're at 10.44% for women and 13.42% for POCI. Next slide, please. So all of the hours were worked by white men in March. It was 140 hours. And next, please. For the Franklin O&M project, there were 67 hours worked during the month of March. And since the start of the work, they've worked 112,456 hours. They did not have any women on site during March, but overall they came in at 8.88%, 23.88% for POCI in March, and they're at 23.68% overall. There were no unspecified hours in March, but overall they're at 4.58%. Thank you, and this is how the breakdown came in. 16 hours were worked by men of color, 23.88%. And 51 hours were worked by white men, 76.1%. And I believe that is all I have for the. I'll turn it over to Christa.
Great, thanks, Elaine. All right, if we could have the next slide, please. So as you can see, each month I show you what we do every month. This is the reoccurring slide that each month there's major things that happen, you know, so we can make sure that we are reviewing and staying on top of things. And the biggest one is our monthly subcontractor meeting. And that has been going good. We're increasing different requirements and expectations. We have our monthly internal team meeting where we review mentorship and upcoming hiring needs and everything with our workforce or layoffs. So we kind of stay on top of what our projections, you know, are for the upcoming time periods. We have our weekly LMJV team meetings every Thursday morning, where I have the segment where I discuss workforce and DBE participation, and then monthly good faith efforts meetings with the Met Council and Department of Human Rights. Those meetings are great because we review different things that we're working on, but also review things that we could be working on, you know, with changes and increases or other activities and who to partner with and stuff. Great meetings. Our monthly DWAC meetings like today. And then also the great thing is the regular meetings that we have with our Building Strong Communities program, as well as like we discussed last month, adding the other CBOs in regards to those meetings. The great thing I'd like to talk about, you guys know that, is the previous month's good faith efforts, where we were and what we were doing within the communities and the industry to help not just increase our number of participation, but also increase our retention in the advocacy and education. So this last month was extremely busy for the LMJV and our subcontractors. We did a great project tour with the Building Strong Communities participants. We went to 2 areas, walking areas within the light rail proximity of our office. Great tour. That was our safety team helped us with that one. We also emailed and contacted various project subcontractors regarding potential workforce candidates for them, for their own companies from the Building Strong Communities program, which was so cool because the big thing is not just the LMJV sponsoring and bringing in new individuals, but ensuring that we're sharing the great potential newbies for our subcontractors, which has proven to be extremely successful, that I'll be talking about in a little bit. We also did some major interviewing of potential hires from the Building Strong Communities program throughout the last month. And like Thomas stated 2 weeks ago, we did attend the awesome graduation of those participants that was held up at North Hennepin Community College. What a great morning that was. Not only to see the excitement of all the participants from all their hard work and stuff to go through this graduation, but to also look around the audience and see all the union representatives, the contractor representatives, but better yet, the families of those graduates, and to watch the joy and pride of those parents, significant others and everything. It was really a treat. But I have to tell you guys, and this is what Thomas kind of held off on for me, they had keynote speakers. I want to give, first of all, kudos to Minger Construction. Bill Traxler and his group at Minger has been such a key component, who is one of our subcontractors, by the way, on the project. He was a keynote speaker, as well as one of the graduates from last year's program, and that Minger had hired last year. This individual, when I met her last year, was one of the shyest people I've ever met. And those that know me publicly, you know I'm not shy and kind of talkative. So it was really fun to see her this year up on the stage talking about the love of her new career. So that was a really fun kudos. But the best part were the next 2 speakers were 2 graduates from this year's program. And Mama Bear here got a little loud when they got up on stage because they are 2 of the individuals that are LMJV are proud to say they are part of our family now, as well as another one that was at graduation who we had not yet determined. So that goes to the next piece, you guys. I am very proud to say that our LMJV have worked very closely with Thomas and the other great educators and supporters of the program. We have now sponsored Isabel into her 49ers career. Her parents were at graduation, and I've never seen a dad so proud of their daughter as I saw it in Isabel's dad. It was really fun. This girl is a dynamo. The 49ers, the union have called us. It's an exciting time. I think she's just going to be such a great person to have. She's one of our rookies for our mentor program, and I look forward to working with her. Another is Dwayne. He's our shy one. You got to always find one of those shy ones and help bring them out of their shell. Dwayne is now being sponsored into the labor's union, and he will be starting his career at the Light Rail Project the first week in June. And then our other one, the one that was not yet a part of the team at graduation, we couldn't get him quick enough. And this young gentleman's name is Jonathan, and he is going to be, he already is sponsored into the Cement Masons Union, and he started his career with the with the LMJ family yesterday. He is actively right now on the Light Rail Project. Very exciting. And we also are keeping a very close look at if there's time to add any other people, you know, we're ready. But the other big part that Thomas and I are super excited about is our subcontractors on our project have already accepted and brought into their families 5 individuals from the Building Strong Communities program. And we are still actively working with not just the LMJV team, but also our subcontractors on finding those perfect fits. And if it's a trade by chance that participant wants to go into that we don't have on the project, we're connecting them with those contractors that we know of. So it's just that placement assistance that we're able to give Building Strong Communities is such a rewarding piece for our project, and to have the people involved in it like we are. We even kind of thought outside the box a little bit. I do see Dale on here. There's an individual from Building Strong Communities program who has now been hired by one of our fencing contractor, but we actually tried to maybe find a piece for him on the project. It didn't work, but it was kind of neat to take his previous experience and education in environmental pieces, as well as what he wants to be doing, on the union construction side. And I do believe that the fun part is with the fencing company. Number one, this gentleman is very, very tall, and that's what, because of the size, the height of some of their fences, that's what they were really looking for. But to add his experience in the past with environmental, they're very excited to see how they can help him grow in that. So there's a couple pieces. The other thing that we're looking forward to with the Building Strong Communities program moving forward, you guys, is currently, like we said, the placement of the individuals that have graduated, but also the mentoring that we're going to, not just the LMJV, but our subcontractors, working alongside with Building Strong Communities over the next year to 2 years, is to ensure that they're getting the mentorship that they need, not just the training in the trades, but just the whole construction aspect. So it'll be fun to watch the progress over the years, and I'm going to start highlighting, some of those Building Strong Communities graduates who are on our project. So here we go. Here's the tour that I talked to you guys about. We did a bridge tour, which was fun. You can see one of the pictures where they had to go up the stairs, and stuff to the top of the bridge. They walked, if you see to the far other side is them up on the bridge. We had one of our lead superintendents talking to them about the project and what was going on at that time. And then we brought them to one of our stations also. And we had one of our safety guys as well as one of our field engineers talk to them about that. And then there's our graduation pictures. As you can see, the gentleman speaking, that is Bill Minger, with his laborer from last year, Cecilia. The two in the middle with the balloons, those are, we have both Isabel and Dwayne. And then in the upper right, hey, there's me, yippee. But there's also Larry Wall, one of our key safety individuals that has really given a lot of his time to the support of Building Strong Communities. So there are those, I do believe. There we go. So last month, well, first of all, any questions regarding our good faith efforts? Oh, great. All right, so last month, as you can see, we had 2 transfers from within Lunda transferred over to the LMJV, white male and a minority male. We had rehires from last season. You can see there were 4 white male, 1 white female, and 2 minority male, and 1 new hire. But now you can add those others, those 3, onto that. And I do believe that is the end of our update. Any questions? Great. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Christa. Appreciate that update. Always nice to hear kind of some of those specific success stories. And I know, as we work on those big picture numbers, sometimes that happens kind of 1 person, 2 people at a time. And so, appreciative of the effort that's going in to track those folks into those positions. So I'll turn it over to Mike for the update from APJV on their workforce activities.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Toney from APJV, and I think we had 1 employee work in March at the Honeywell plant receiving in testing everything and making sure everything is where they say it's supposed to be in the traction power substations that were delivered, and just making sure that the batteries are there and all the components are there and all that kind of stuff as it's getting built by Siemens and getting delivered. Siemens hasn't stopped building the traction power substations during the life of this project. So, but you know, they haven't gotten installed, and they're being stored at the Golden Valley at the Honeywell facility out there. So it's interesting, but we have one person just kind of just testing and checking in everything. So that's Jake. So limited scope in 2022. Like Chris said, bulk of the lab will begin in 2023. Really not anticipating anything major this year. Maybe a little bit more out in July. I think we had a few hours in April, but nothing significant. We had National Safety Week for contractors was held earlier this month, and Aldridge was the grand poobah of that for all the contractors, and that was a great week of activities and just getting out and being out in the field and talking safety. Aldridge prides itself on its safety program. We want to make sure everybody goes home with 5 fingers and 5 toes. But you know, this year we're talking a lot about mental wellness, you know, and checking in with our coworkers and making sure that, you know, we're making that connection with people. There's some startling statistics out there about you know, a high rate of suicide in construction industry. So I mean, that fact that we're talking about it is really a good thing. Again, we had internal meetings to discuss the workforce this summer with Meyer and Gunner Electric to see what they're going to be doing, and we're talking about, you know, expectations. We continue to expand our participation with Summit Academy. We'll be participating on mock interviews again on June 10th, and we look forward to working and expanding with Building Strong Communities as we go along. So that's where we stand for the month of May. And that's where we're going. So we look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Great, thanks, Mike. Any questions? Turn it over to Ashanti.
All right, thanks. Now we're going to move into Ellis Black. As John mentioned earlier, this project is coming to a close and virtually is closed out. But we wanted to provide an opportunity for Ellis Black to highlight their achievements and challenges on this workbook, identify any best practices, lessons learned through this process, and just kind of give a final overview. This is also an opportunity for the committee to provide any feedback to LS Black on their experiences. So Brian and Monica are here and will be presenting on the project recap for us and sharing their lessons learned. I'll turn it over to Brian and Monica.
Thanks, Ashanti. So this first slide looks like we're going to start with DBE. I was a little thrown off that was going to go workforce, but that's okay. This is just our more or less each month by month DBE summary, and as both John and Ashanti mentioned, we're at 99% build. We're just working on closeout punch list documentation right now. So as you can see, through last month's billing, April, we are right at that 18.99 for DBE. So hopeful there. There's still some small change order finalization of contract total amounts with some of these subs and every sub. So we're optimistic we can hit our goal of that 18.6 that you can see in the top left, but still fairly proud that, you know, we are where we are with 15 being the goal. We teed everybody up at 18 and 2/3 to start the job, and haven't been any major changes. There's obviously been changes we've dealt with and trued up with subs, but this is where we're standing today. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, kind of we can go through this. I think we've got a couple slides on how we got there, lessons learned. Yep, thank you. So I'll go through this, and I don't mean to be long-winded, but in LS Black, I guess, in my opinion, this is not what we do every day. We're not in the government Met Council world all day, but what we can go through is kind of what we learned, where we are, how we got there, and anything we would do differently, or feedback from any other prime or sub teams on this. I'll hit that first one, discuss how we work with DBEs to solidify subcontracts and commitments. This one, I mean, this is all front end work in my opinion, right? You have a contract amount at the start of the job once any prime is awarded. You have a DBE amount of percentage, and it's really the front end establishing how you're going to award enough to meet that goal. So this part, once it's executed, in my opinion, and anybody else can weigh in, but every DBE is treated like any other subcontractor, right? The DBE is just somebody that needs a little bit more monitoring to make sure that that amount isn't affected. But other than that, once you get them in the door, signed up, fully executed, they are treated like every other subcontractor and team member on the job. So my note there at the end, it just takes some additional oversight to confirm any change orders. That's the only thing, in my opinion, you really need to monitor and be aware of. Yes, the prime can control what I call internal change orders. Yeah, I want you to work the weekend, or yeah, I don't need you to install that, or this, that. Owner/client change orders are the things you need to be aware of if there are major scope changes that affect who you're awarding that to, right? If you have I'm just paraphrasing, but if a big electrical scope and your electrical contractor is not DBE, what are you going to do? Are you going to give a change order to the team you've had there for the last year, or are you going to try to hire somebody that is DBE? So it's something to monitor, and I won't go any further on that one. So that's bullet number one. Bullet number two, our company done better, respect to soliciting, negotiating, communicating. My comment there in the smaller note is we would always, and I'm assuming everybody would agree with this, but we would always appreciate more qualified DB pools or teams of subs to pull from for every scope. The other note there is that, yes, based on the previous slide we looked at, that was 18.5 or 18.6% of contract award, and 15 being the goal. I would say that was an accomplishment from the LS Black team, is to try to put together a good DBE team and be at that percent. When we're at 99% build, I'll take that as a victory. But I think, if there's a bigger pool, and I'm not saying I know how to get to there, but I think everybody would appreciate that when you can get multiple quotes, multiple scope reviews from different subcontract teams that meet DBE, rather than being, I hate to say it, but I don't want to say forced, but shortlisted to a smaller team if you need to meet numbers. So that's one thing our company, I don't want to say could do better, but maybe more phone calls, maybe that's a lesson learned for the industry as a whole, to create more DBE opportunities for other contractors. I'm going to skip to that slide number 3, internal staff turnover, and I'll admit I wasn't Monica or I weren't on this job at conception with LS Black, so that was a challenge in itself. I think everybody knows how much language there is in the owner contracts and the large amount of specs. So for both her and I to understand what was committed to the sub teams, what communications we started with, kind of how we rolled that into the turnover of the team, yes, was a challenge. And I mean, I don't want to go into the discussion of it's hard to keep good people these days in the industry, but that affected us a little bit on this job, and we did have some turnover in some key positions. And I would love to say, hey, hopefully it doesn't happen to any team, but yes, it was a challenge. But once, I would say, Monica and I got our feet under us on what's expected, what's reporting, who is our team, what do we need to watch for contract amounts, change orders. Hey, these are our DBE team that we need to make sure we hold numbers to. I think it went well from there. But yes, the turnover was a challenge. So I guess I'll leave it at that. And I don't wish that on anybody for having a challenge or struggle through some internal changes with staff. And then our last one on this slide is good faith efforts worked in terms of DBE perspective and what didn't. In a weird way, there wasn't a ton of good effort or good faith efforts that were required. We had a team, we had executed subcontracts. On the front end, I'll give kudos to the people in front of us that did a good job vetting out, putting good contracts together, understanding the contracts. So there wasn't a month by month, right? Each month, and I don't have a graph to look at, but I would say our DBE percentage based on overall contract stayed in that, I'm going to call it 18% throughout the life of the project. So this one compared to workforce was less challenging. We had an agreed upon amount of contractors that were ready to go to meet that number. So month by month, I wouldn't say it was as much of a check-in. It was just, hey, from a prime perspective, you just got to make sure that there aren't any large contract changes to that or those scopes that are on your DBE team. So I won't dwell on that anymore, but that one was pretty straightforward. You get a team lined up, manage it through the end, and make sure there aren't any major changes in or out of those team members' scopes. So sorry, that was a lot of talking. Any questions on that before we go to the next slide? Okay, otherwise go ahead and click to the next one. I'll try to talk through that one.
One moment, we're having some technical difficulties.
Yep.
Sorry, folks. I'm unable to get connected, so let me try restarting. I'll let Eli share screen. Oh. So I'm unable to get connected, so let me try restarting. I'll let Eli share screen. Oh. All right, folks. Sorry. You guys see it? Everything okay?
Questions?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it's Brian. I'll pick back up. I think this was the last one where we left off. This question, what would you do differently in future projects working with DBEs? Honestly, not a lot. It was pretty straightforward as far as the percentage goal that we should aim for. I mentioned it earlier in one of the slides. I don't think anybody would argue if there was a bigger pool that would obviously help. But just knowing who to talk to, and that goes all the way to your upfront pre-con estimating team on who to get numbers from. But just knowing that consciously of, hey, here's the number we need to hit to get to those numbers. It's really just front end. Like I said, get the contracts going, and then you just handle those team members just like any other sub and monitor major changes in those scopes. So what would we do differently? Not much. I'll leave it there, and it's just a lot of front end work. And then this last one, examples, I don't have anything much for this. It's kind of an echo of what I've been saying, right? A lot of this is who you go out to, who you get numbers from, who qualifies as DBEs, putting together good scopes, putting together good contracts. And then it's just a monitoring game. I won't speak for the civil or the systems contract, but I'd assume they went into the job at the start with a percentage that, hey, if we just hold steady this, we'll meet DBE goals. But yes, it's a lot on the front end. So that's it for DBE summary, unless anyone has any questions on that.
It's Barb Lau. I just have a comment or two on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
There were a couple things that you said that I would ask you to kind of maybe change the dialogue and something that we're kind of looking for there, Brian. You keep talking about a number and we're going to meet the number, and once we meet it, we're good. And that's kind of the mentality we want to get rid of. So although I appreciate that you met and exceeded the number by a bit, I did see incidences where it was like you could have continued to use DBEs, but then once their contract amount was used or something, you went to someone else. Those are the types of things that I think we need to look further at as an industry, and particularly with the GCs. This shouldn't just be done on the front end. We got to do better. This can't just be a number that we're meeting. It's about trying to exceed and do better as a whole to increase this. We're never going to increase the pool if we can't start working on building capacity, and especially in a difficult project like this. So that's my 2 cents on this, is what I've seen in all of these projects going forward. The capacity builds when we have people that stop using people just up to the goal amount. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Appreciate it, Barb. Appreciate that. And my only response, and yes, I could probably elaborate on that, but the thing I tried to stress is DBE versus what I quote as a non-DBE sub is no different once they get signed up. I'm not using, or our company would never use, a subcontractor to meet a number and then be done with them. That was something that came up midway through the project, that some subcontractors think they're being used to meet a number, right? Normally when any prime signs up a contractor, they sign them up for a full scope of work. So I would never say, hey, Phil, get us to a number and then I'm going to release your contract amount. No, you're going to complete the whole thing. And the other item to promote is that good teams, and I'll just call it subcontractor teams, promote more work, right? It's a relationship-based industry. So when you do good work, you want to continue to do good work regardless of if you're DBE or non-DBE. So I'm not trying to play defense, but I've never said, hey, I know I need to keep you up until I hit that number, then I'm going to cut you loose. It's always been, your contract is worth X amount. I expect you to be here from this part to that part and fulfill that amount of contract work. Thank you. Keep going. We'll get to the end. I appreciate your help. It's never, I met my number. I don't even know how to terminate a contract prior to that. So that's the only thing, Barb, that I question on that is, at least from the LS Black perspective, I don't think we've ever hired somebody to get to a number and then cut them loose. These are all numbers, commitments at the start of the job, and then you have to hold that through to the end of the contract. We've never hired anybody else to do that scope of work because we hit the number. If you did good work, you get a change order, you get an extension to continue doing the good work you've done. Any comments on that? I don't mean to go back and forth with just Barb, but any other thoughts on that?
It's Christa here. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Christa.
Hey, real quick, and through our conversations and stuff, because of, how the various generals work together, with understanding, the DBE aspect and workforce and everything like that. I just, first of all, kudos to what you guys did do. Big difference in projects in the past that I've seen. But what I am going to say in support of not just Barb, but the great work Ashante and Jon and everybody do in regards to DBE. If you guys look back to the original light rail project at the beginning, and the amount of work we had for DBEs, but the partnerships with the contractors that were there, it was a big struggle. Okay, now you look 10 plus years later, I know it's more than that, you guys, but whatever. But if you look at the relationships now and the strength of the DBEs that we're utilizing on this project now, it's amazing, the growth. of those industries. And it was so fun to hear Mike Toney and the Aldrich Electric update regarding the subs they're using. And a lot of them are the same subs that we're using, and the magnitude of it. And a lot of it has to do with what you're doing during the project regarding helping them understand a lot of the things that our big companies have 50 people in the office to do the work, that the DBEs have maybe 5 people to do that same paperwork, the same, I mean, different, of course, higher dollar values, but change orders, how to submit your invoicing correctly with all the supporting documents, you know, so that they can get the payment. And it's a constant. When you have a DBE on a project, and yes, there are other subcontractors that need that same help that we're going to give them also, but it's a constant educating and mentoring and growing them so that come the next project, guess what? You already have a relationship and know who can do what of that work. So I'm just going to say it's great. You guys have done a great job, but just keep in mind, you actually did mentor them throughout your project. You provided, right? Maybe not you directly, but maybe somebody in your accounting department. So we have to really think, you know, about that aspect throughout the project regarding DBEs. Why are we contracting with them? It's not to meet a goal, you guys. Not to meet a goal. It's to strengthen a company, to grow a company. Okay. So there's my 2 cents, more like 5 cents, but I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks.
I agree with that, Christa. And I think that, you know, being with the GC such as LS Black and having the leaders here helping mentor the DBEs and moving forward with some of the things that we've learned and the knowledge that we have. And I think that that mentorship is definitely something that, you know, going forward with our project managers is something that we will be doing to help grow them and their business, and just getting them again with that mentorship and bringing them up to the next level and helping them along in the way with their business. So great call.
Any other DBE comments or questions just before we get to the next slide?
If there aren't any, I have one. All right. My question and comment, from your perspective, Brian or Monica, would it be of a benefit for the council, specifically the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity, to provide some technical assistance to DBE subcontractors relative to something that Christa kind of touched on, change orders, pay apps, and making sure proper documentation and process is understood to kind of ensure that these things aren't sitting out there. Because one of the things that, and my memory is not that good to know if this situation occurred with LS Black, but one of the things that does frustrate me from my standpoint is submitting a change order that we know won't be approved by the council with proper documentation. And from my perspective, the prime shouldn't be submitting it and should be conversing with that sub on what's needed before submitting it, and then just sitting and saying, well, you know, the council didn't approve this, or we're waiting on response on that. So again, my question is, would you see any benefit from providing that type of technical assistance to DBs, or even just small contractors that may not be DBs? Yeah, that's my question.
Okay. No, Ashanti, I think that's fair. And I don't, from my perspective, I would think we'd take 100% any additional support, information, training possible, right? I think, how do I say this? Working with Met Council is an animal of itself. So DBE versus non-DBE, there are challenges regardless, right? What backup do you need? Do you need to show this? I need further information on this. There's a lot of acronyms between changes, core Cs, RFCPs, TIAs, you name it. There's a lot of acronyms that not, maybe a non-government subcontractor that hasn't worked with them a lot, even at Prime, may need training for. So to say that the council or even MDHR side is willing to help train, yes, I think that would be a hands down yes, especially on the early on. Like, hey, here's what we expect. Let's just go through an example change order as a team, right? If I'm on the council side, I will reject this because of it doesn't have the right backup, right? I would say the DB teams, as I mentioned earlier, yes, have a higher level of monitoring / focus. And if they need additional support, help, training, we'll do our best. But at the same time, trying to translate the message of what the owner client council is looking for is always, I think, the challenge, right? They may do, as anybody, even Ellis Black or Prime, may do their best effort to put together a change order pricing, a schedule impact, a submittal, whatever it may be. So any support that the ownership level would be willing to give, I think would definitely be a benefit. And that's my quick perspective on that. I don't know if there's anything, Monica, for you, but that's just my interaction with sub teams and how they think sometimes it is a challenge on these type of jobs.
I think the level of experience, right, that we have on projects, having that technical training would be helpful, and then you can help along as a project manager in mentoring that group, and me as an HR manager and helping their HR team or their teams. And so it's more of a reciprocal type of strategy where we try to help each other become better at what we do in our crafts.
Did that answer what you were looking for, Shante?
Sure. Yep. I just wanted to get, your perspective. I've got another perspective, so I definitely wanted to get the perspective from Ellis Black. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
What is your perspective, Ashanti?
Well, my perspective is that if it's of benefit and it can help the process and it can help DBEs get paid faster, have a better understanding and connection to the process, because as Brian mentioned, just dealing with the council and is a beast in itself, and a project that's complicated like this adds additional complexity. So if there's going to be benefit in it, we're going to figure out a way to do it and deliver it. So that's my perspective.
Okay, thank you. We can click to the next one if you guys are ready to move on from DBE. Okay, thank you. So we'll switch gears a little bit and talk workforce. And as we talked about at the start of the job, we are, I believe it's 99+% build on the job. So we are virtually done. These are more or less going to be the final numbers. So I tried to highlight on this, and this is fresh. Just, I believe, again, not having a ton of background on this, we are provided by council the summary of workforce through LCP tracker on roughly the 15th. So I think this came from Samantha Kaner and then my council team yesterday. So this is the latest through 4:30, as you can see on the top left there. So more or less our POCI numbers, if I did my math right on this spreadsheet, looks like 21% for POCI, and then I'm just going to round to 9 for female participation. So that's where we ended at out of a total of, if I'm bottom left looking at it right, 112,000 hours. So we can expand on this if you don't mind clicking to the next slide. So first topic, our perspective, workforce participation. I mean, I'll lean on you a little bit, Monica, but it's another, I would say, challenge, but again, on the front end, it's established on numbers that the goals and the sub teams are expected and need to make efforts to meet. So it's a two-part answer, right? It's a challenge in itself just because of the available numbers, the month-by-month reporting, what we can do to lean on, leverage subcontract teams on month-by-month monitoring. But at the same time, I mean, I know we promote it. I know it's an internal goal of ours, regardless of the client/owner contract requirements. So I know that's kind of a high-level perspective answer. I don't know if you have anything, Monica, on that one.
I think even out of the requirements, right? It's trying to find and staff accordingly, and not only for LS Black, but our subcontractors. And so I think, that was a huge learning for me to understand that that it is all encompassing in not only LS Black, but all of our subcontractors. And so we could have done better. I think if we would have had a constant team versus, we did have some turnover on this project. And then the understanding of what is all included in those workforce participation numbers, and how do we best as a company help our subcontractors staff up and help them grow and really increase their diversity numbers. So that was a huge learning, I think, for me when it came to workforce participation. I'll always say we can do better, because we can. And it's just looking at what did we do, what did our subcontractors do, and how do we get better. So I'll never be happy with the numbers that we have, and just want to continue to move forward. As far as what we could have done better regarding the good faith efforts, I'll let you talk a little bit about it, and then I'll chime in.
Okay. So this, again, I know we've talked about it, but the turnover. So understanding some opportunities on, I'll call it monitoring, but month-by-month basis, I think is what I wrote here. And I think one of the challenges for me personally on the PM level of this was getting that monthly spreadsheet workforce utilization summary from the council team. And it's a lot of pages. I can't imagine what it looks like for the LMJV job. But, we had 40 some pages, and you got to scroll to the very, very, very bottom and see, hey, here's our numbers for the month. Now, one of the challenges was, okay, that's how we did this month, but do I need to literally go through this spreadsheet, look at each sub by sub, create numbers based on what their percentages were, filter that out between 30 subs, and then send 30 emails to each sub to say, hey, you did a good job, keep it up, or hey, you were low, let's do a better job, and what are you doing? So I think that's both a question as far as, can there be maybe a better job or a better reporting system? Not saying that's an excuse, but then at the same time, from our end, making it both a monthly obligation to send and get feedback from every sub, regardless if they're doing good on their numbers or have improvement areas. And the other thing too that we talked about and even saw in Christa's slides was, what we didn't do was a monthly meeting with sub teams to talk about workforce specifically. And DBE maybe tied into the same meeting, but we never held a monthly sub meeting with the PM and or sub teams to talk about these numbers, where they were the last month and what they're doing. So I would, maybe I'm kind of speaking ahead, but that would definitely be something we would set up moving forward to say, hey, in your subcontract, you agree to meet monthly and have a workforce discussion about action items and or, continuing to stay on track regardless. So
yeah, I think those monthly meetings would be very crucial, right? You can do best practice sharing and learn from one another on our wins and fails. Also collecting the good faith efforts. I know we did collect quite a few and we have them filed, but just having it more of an organized conversation and keeping it in front and center, and the subs will know each month that we're going to be talking about this. And if you are talking about it each month, it keeps it at the top of their mind. And you know, it will help facilitate asking questions, and how do we link them to some of the things that we're doing, or some of the things that we hear, you know, other folks that are doing out in the field. So I think that good faith efforts, we definitely have room for improvement for ourselves, and then also for our subcontractors. And that would take us into subcontractor accountability, right? So having those monthly conversations and being able to hold them accountable, like there's this a peer-to-peer type of accountability. And I did talk to Brian a little bit about, you know, how potentially later down the road, if we are having discussions with subcontractors and they are not making efforts to move forward, we're not seeing, we hear them talking about it, but they're not actually moving the dial. Is that something where we can look at potentially down the road holding funds, or doing things in partnership with MDHR in trying to identify what can we do and what have other companies done to help hold their subcontractors accountable? Do you have anything else additional on that?
No, I think that one ties into some of the stuff we've mentioned above. So,
and for the EO training with our own workforce and subcontractors, I think that, you know, we did have our safety director doing some of our on-site EEO training with the workforce and subcontractors and teams out there. But going forward, I think that we could have done a better job, and again, making sure that we have a consistent team, because there was that inconsistency when you have different project managers and different HR directors. I know LS Black had another director when we started this project, and not knowing that transitional period. But having a monthly EEO meeting and talking through biases and different topics each month at the minimum, quarterly, or I should say quarterly at the minimum, monthly would be ideal to go through and have that EEO training, and using different culture of care and different topics that we can use to go through that. Do you have anything additional on that, Brian, for the EEO training?
no, the only thing I was gonna say on this, and I know John and his team came out and did some DBE, I'm not gonna go visits, let's just call it that. I don't want to say audits, but visits to the team. And I think workforce is, you know, another one of those that is a hard one, because I don't know how you visit the site and ask how workforce is going to some of the craft team. But one thing that I try to use as a comparison is, I don't know if every job's using like Chase visits or OSHA visits as a partnership. What I don't like on those from a safety perspective, and I'll tie this in, but I don't want our team to be like, oh, stop working or don't talk to them because they're going to find out what's wrong. No, it's a team effort. So when the DBE team or workforce does a site visit, it should be very collaborative and open. Like, here's what we like, here's what we've been trained, here's what we've been told, here's what I think this is a safe, fair, open working environment. That's just one thing, and I know it's not directly tied to this, but maybe an area of improvement from both primes and council to say, hey, look, we're going to have these meetings, and it's an open, transparent, honest feedback time, not, hey, we're going to come hound the job and look around. So that's just something that I thought was a benefit to the project, but I felt like it was a hindrance when the craft team saw that it was kind of, you know, go inside your shell and don't be open and honest. So I know it's not training, but it's kind of just an observation that I think is an opportunity potentially, both for primes to say, hey, this is a partnership collaboration. Let's just be open and honest about what we've been trained on, taught, learned, how things are going, as well as maybe council's opportunity to say, hey, what can we, you know, implement or work with primes on better. So sorry, that was kind of the last two bullets there about mechanisms and EEO, but any questions there before we go to next slide?
This is Ashanti again. Again, I'll preface this by saying my questions are, I'm not trying to trip you up or Actually, I'll hold, seeing this next slide, I'll hold my question until you get through this next slide. Thanks, sorry.
Okay, fair enough. This one, this example, the first one, improvements with timely submission reports and info. This one I would take as more of an internal opportunity of improvement from the LS Black, right? I know there's monthly requirements where we submit both DBE and workforce, but there's also just from the PM perspective, and this isn't anything against the other side of our LS Black office, there are CMS reports, LCP tracker, and oh, sorry, Elaine, what's the other report that for workforce hours that is required?
The monthly utilization reports.
That one. So there's that, and I only apologize because there's what is required per the contract to submit, and that's from the project level what we do, right? Here's our DBE report, here's our monthly workforce report, here's the schedule, prompt payment, all the other things. But where we could improve from LS Black is internally training our team, whether that's from the PM level, HR, payroll, you name it, on other reports that are outside of requirements by the contract for payment, because that's, I guess, when I look at it as a project level. The DBE report, or sorry, the payroll, I'm getting confused. The CMS reporting, though, that's on one side of it, and then the workforce that Elaine mentioned are things that I think we could improve on to make sure that both parties, Prime and Council, have reports necessary. And the only other comment that I'll make to that is maybe just transparency of where I get very confused is that the contractors provided the workforce utilization summary by Council. And then if I'm understanding correct, that report gets sent back in monthly for pay-ups and through another report. So we're reporting back the same numbers, and there's sometimes questions between those, right? It's a report that the primes don't generate, but it goes right back to MDHR and Council. So anyways, maybe that's a loaded question, but
for us, it's really about internal training, right? Understanding the information that's coming to us and understanding how to output it. So we had a new payroll assistant, and so how do we help her in understanding the information coming to her and making sure that it's processed and that she feels comfortable, confident as it's going out. And we had our first meeting, was it last week, that we were deep diving into some of these questions. And so I think it's really getting into the information with her and how does that information come out, when does it come out, and getting her comfortable with that. And so that's definitely was a learning for us, and we're continuing to train on that with some of the folks within our company that have that experience. And then we'll be leveraging also Elaine and her team to make sure that we're doing it properly in the way that is beneficial for everyone here on the call. For the EEO training with all workers and supervisory personnel, so there is absolutely an area of opportunity, I think, within LS Black, probably I would assume our subcontractors and all of the industry. I think, every organization needs to go through the EEO training, and that's inclusive of our supervisory personnel. So I will say that there are people within the organization that have to go through unconscious bias training, right? And being able to understand where biases may reside, which they may not see. And so it's not only going through training, but also coaching. So helping them understand what it shows, what biases show up like, and how as we move forward, working through different types of EEO training, again, in partnership with the Culture of Care, the AGC of Minnesota, and then also we use LinkedIn Learning, and then in-person meetings with myself. so there are actionable items for us throughout this year to go through those types of training, at least at a monthly basis and quarterly with our leaders at minimum.
These last three, I guess I don't want to waste any time or by any means skip these, but I know we've talked about reporting, counting previously, and I guess I'll just say, look, we need to understand what we get from council, how we report it internally, how we report out, and that ties into the next one, is holding subs accountable, right? We talked about that earlier, making sure we do a better job. Both transmitting monthly reports to each subcontract team on numbers, and then number two, I think the other big area was having that monthly meeting. And then this last one we talked about earlier, but Monica, you have one other thought there.
Yeah, so LS Black has done a lot of work, I would say, in the last year on our internal staff, as far as what our turnover looks like and how do we retain employees. How do we improve employee experience and make sure we have a culture that people feel heard. And so I would say from a employee net promoter score, which we have been tracking since 2017, we are at the highest we've ever been in the organization since that 2017 analysis. And so I read through the comments, I read through and deep dive into each department to identify areas of opportunity. And so I think as we, obviously through the Great Resignation, and we have a lot of people, or we don't have a lot of people, we have people offered a lot of money that may leave the organization as we have this war on talent. But when it comes to making sure the overall employee experience is there, so there's not a lot of turnover, that we are listening to employees, that we are becoming more employee focused organization to reduce that turnover, and to provide training to our employees that they feel empowered to be able to do their work and have that mentorship. I think, going forward, within this last year, we've done pretty good, and my focus is to do better, right? I'm never happy or satisfied and say, okay, yep, we got it, we're good. It's like, what else is broken? What else do we need to fix? What else are other companies doing, not even in construction, but outside of construction, that we can help look at and maybe implement within LS Black? And so turnover is definitely top of mind, and we understand that this project was really wonky, having different project managers and different folks working through either EEO or HR. And so we realize that it's our focus to help with that as we focus on employee retention.
COVID. That was a fun little variable. Is there anything else? I feel like Monica and I have been long-winded here. We tried to go through kind of a big picture, holistic, where our struggles are, where some areas of opportunities are. Is there any questions? I think I don't want to get ahead of myself. Is this the last slide? If we click it forward. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? I don't want to move on right away.
Did we answer your question, or?
Yeah, you had a question at the end that you were holding.
Yes. So you did kind of touch on it. The thing, for us as the council, we want to get better, improve in areas, and if there's things that we can do that either on other projects moving forward or on this project, we want to understand that. And you touched on a little bit about the systems and the systems that we provide to you as contractors to report this information. So again, I just would like to get your perspective on the adequacy, user friendliness, ability to get the information you need and want and are required to report. Can there be improvements made in that area? Did it meet your needs, or is that an area where we can get better?
Ashanti, it's Brian. My only from the project management standpoint is it appears and sounds like, and I know this is private information, that only one individual or generally one or more have access to LCP from the company, just because there are hours, wages, etc. in that. So it's tough to get reports out of LCP other than what is sent on a monthly basis by council to each prime. So I guess I'm more or less saying we put all of our information observation into that report that gets sent to us. And what I thought was a little ironic is that our numbers were different from Elaine's on this month's. I think she had 23% for POCI and we were at 22. And I thought we pull from the same report that's provided by council. So I'm not trying to point a highlight on that. It's just
education.
Yeah, I'm just confused on the, what we get for numbers and then how it goes backwards. And that's maybe the only thing from my perspective on a management level is, are we doing the right thing internally, LCP reporting? And then what we get monthly, is that what we base all of our future assessments on? That
Elaine
number.
has her hand up.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple of things. One of the reasons may be that not all of your subs have entered their information. I have found that to be true for all of the companies on this project, not only LS Black, but it also happens with LMJV and APJV. But the other thing I noticed when you have the slide on the workforce is that I do count the other because that represents multiracial individuals. And you didn't include that in your totals. So that's all I wanted to add.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, and I even mentioned when I was trying to go through that is I hope I did the math right on my little highlight there. So that's another potential area of opportunity between both council and contractors to say, hey, there's no, yeah, this slide, thank you for whoever moved it. Looks like I didn't include that 2,900 and other. I didn't want to help or hurt that number. So I took the conservative route, I guess. But again, that's why, in my opinion, it's got a small level of confusion that I was hoping could maybe be eliminated for future to say, here's what we all are using. Here's the numbers we all highlighted. Here's your number based on our agreement. So anyways, Ashanti, that's kind of maybe my project levelment confusion on some of these reporting numbers.
No,
it has
thank you.
been a
Appreciate
challenge. Yeah, it's that your comments are appreciated, Brian. It has been a challenge for Brianne and myself and for Joseph as we have monitored these projects, because oftentimes the numbers are off and it's not, and it has to do with companies not submitting their payroll information or entering their payroll information into LCPT tracker on a timely basis. So there's always a lag.
Is there anything, Elaine, or anyone else in the group that you have found other companies have found beneficial in helping encourage them to get them done in time?
Constantly reminding the primes to meet with their subcontractors and to encourage them to enter their workforce hours. So, I mean, it's like I said, it's been an ongoing issue that we discuss in good faith efforts meetings. And I don't know if you guys can hear this, but it's really pouring here.
Oh, we can't hear it at all, no.
And we're getting hail.
Oh, no. Yikes.
Yeah, Elaine and I are in downtown Minneapolis, and it's starting to pour and hail, and it's kind of big. So we apologize for any noise in the background.
We apologize.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a great point. If we do have, future, right, when we have those subcontractor meetings, we can go through good faith efforts and maybe we can talk about the pay as well. making sure they're getting their information in time and explain the whys, right? I think it's very important to explain if we're needing help and why is this important and getting that information. And so we get the accurate information in a timely fashion.
Yeah, Monica, I think just building awareness around the reasoning behind the need for them to get it in there would really be helpful. Because we want to give everyone credit for, their attainment. And if, we're constantly fighting against that lag, they're not getting credit for where credit is due. So I think just building that awareness, giving them the reason why, letting them also know that, even letting your subs know, like there's an advisory committee that monitors this, that we have to, meet with, then maybe they'll understand and be fully aware of the importance of getting this information in timely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think thank you, Brianne. I think it's just the awareness and why is it important, and everything that you said. I mean, if they knew that, most of them would probably make sure that they get it in on time. And if they didn't, then you can have, maybe give them a jingle, and it would only take a few times of reminders. Some might need more reminders than others, but, that would be very helpful for us.
I think from my perspective too, hi Monica and Brian, it was a pleasure working with you guys on the project. And I think from a practical standpoint, document retention, I think, is at the heart. If you're going to practice one habit and really master it when it comes to building, equity and inclusion in your within your organization, it's document retention. Just having a time, a time when you go through, whether it's quarterly or monthly, when you're reviewing documents and discarding old documents, because then you're touching those documents and you're staying on top of what your processes are. When things get busy, you know where to go, and you're only putting your hands on, the most up-to-date documents that are going to inform you on what to do, who to contact. So I think just from a practical standpoint, that getting good at that will have a cascading effect, as you continue to build systems within your own program and Dallas Black.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Documentation is so important in making sure that we have a process and that we follow that process, because then it becomes habitual, right? If you have the documentation, you have a process, and they just know what to expect each time as you come into a meeting or the information that we need. I think that that's a wonderful, and we have been improving our processes and getting new, I should say, our documentation processes, and investing in IT and being able to make it a lot more easier for us as we're continuing to grow here. Nothing is worse than having it on a sheet of paper in Brian's office, when it's not on a shared system, and trying to guess, especially when we had that turnover, and then as that individual leaves, that information leaves with them. And so having a more robust IT system is able to share information with one another in real time.
Absolutely, or when things get busy, it's not even when somebody leaves, but if MDHR is knocking on your door and you're scrambling and you're like, I don't know what to do, or I don't know where to look. There's a big difference between that and knowing where to look and knowing where to go, what document to put your hands on. If everyone is on the same page, and it helps if there is turnover. Then there's a process that isn't broken. Communications, you guys will continue to hum along. Your processes will continue to hum along. So
yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? Any other questions for us? I know Bren and I've learned a lot. this is, I believe, our last call here. I've learned a lot from the majority of everyone on this call, either even if it's just sitting in and observing and listening, or being a part of this dialogue. It's been very informative and it's helped me grow in my role, and will continue to move forward and take the information that you've all shared here, and try to help shape LS Black and what we do here in our industry moving forward. But I wanted to take a moment to say I appreciate all of you and the time that you've invested in LS Black, the time you've invested in me, and the hours you've spent with me explaining things and working with us. It's very important that we all help one another out. It's a very important work that we're doing here. And I love the passion in this group, and I'll miss our time together. So I do have some one-offs with some of you folks so I can continue to learn and grow. But I just wanted to make sure that I took a moment to say thank you to all of you for helping us, especially myself. In this last, I think I've been on that call since like November. So I appreciate it. Everything that you've done. And if you ever have questions or anything, please feel free to give me an email or give me a call.
Monica,
yeah.
I just want to say that we are always available for you to consult with. You know,
you are on my.
Joseph didn't just monitor the project. He is your equity and inclusion specialist. And so we're here, Brianne, Joseph, myself, we're all here if you need any consultation, any advice, you know, and just please feel free to continue reaching out to us.
Absolutely. I know Joseph and I have a call set up quarterly just to touch base. And you are definitely the folks who I'll be continuing to follow up with and ask questions and seek best practice advice.
Good.
And I just wanted to, you know, jump in and say, you know, first, thank you for, you know, doing this postmortem kind of at the end of the project. I think this was something that kind of coming in midstream on these meetings, you know, something I thought would be really helpful as contractors kind of wrap up their work and move on is how do we, you know, both, you know, collectively and as individual contractors sort of look back and say, what did we learn from this? Because I think one of the things I know I've seen is, you know, contractors working on public sector projects tend to work on multiple public sector projects, and they do so repeatedly over the years. And how do we, you know, sort of use these opportunities to make sure that we're reflecting and, you know, cataloging some of those experiences. So gratitude for that. And I think, you know, one of the things that I think was really helpful in this presentation is just sort of seeing that there is this place that you need to have the right systems, the right culture, the right people kind of brought together in order to have success on these projects. And that's both for the primes, but also I think as you rightly identified of how do you set up the right structures, relationships, and culture from the start with subcontractors. And so how does that, you know, relationship get defined in a way where you are, you know, getting good collaboration and good reporting, and you're getting kind of the things you need. So appreciative of that. And I think that's a place where, you know, we want to be an ongoing partner. So definitely let us know when there are times and places where we can help provide information and advice. And, you know, glad to hear that you've got those kind of ongoing calls set up with Joseph, and do let us know, you know, how we can be helpful, because I can imagine there's probably more or public sector work in LS Black's future. And, you know, we want to make sure that we're collaborating effectively to continue to get improved outcomes. So appreciative of that.
Absolutely. And, you know, again, having this conversation and continuing to meet and putting together a more drafted process and having it as a part of an SOP. So no matter, you know, if Monica or whomever is helping with this project, different project manager, they will be able to know what's expected of them to be able to deliver the same type of experience. It doesn't leave with Monica, it doesn't leave with Brian, right? The work continues, and it's just a part of one of our core processes. So definitely be continuing to work with you folks on that for sure.
Great, thank you. All right. Anything else on this section? Otherwise, we can move on to the invitation for public comment. Right. Well, my understanding is we did not have anyone who signed up to speak as part of our public comment section. So if folks want to speak in future meetings, the information's on the slide. They can reach out and pre-register. My understanding is we don't have anyone here who wishes to comment. Is that correct?
Yeah, we didn't have any body request, any public comments either, so.
All right, great. Well, thank you. So we can move on from that. So I'll turn it over to Ashanti for adjournment.
All right, thanks everybody who participated in today's meeting. Of course, we missed our friends from MnDOT and others who are attending the transportation conference. But I am actually kind of looking forward to next month's in-person meeting at the field office in Hopkins. Again, as I mentioned in the pre, if anyone that uses public transportation, and we definitely promote that, needs wants to ride pool over there, please connect with me, and I will arrange something for transportation for those who take public transportation. You can always stay connected via our construction updates, social media, on the project website, and also you can connect with me or project staff, and of course the folks, Scott and the folks at MDHR. With that, this month's meeting is adjourned. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.